The first thing they noticed was the silence. A silence so heavy, it clung to the air like a storm waiting to break. The officers who arrived that evening knew this wasn't going to be just another call. The neighbors had whispered for days, about the strange smell, about the sudden absence of the young woman who used to greet them with a smile, about the uneasy shadows cast by the man she lived with. And then, in the fading light of dusk, they dug. Hands, gloved and trembling, tore into the dirt of a suburban backyard. Each scoop of soil released the stench of something hidden, something broken. The truth was clawing its way out of the ground. And when they found her, wrapped in the earth that should never have been her grave, the silence finally cracked. A scream, not from her lips, but from the voices of those who loved her, carried across the night. Her name was Monique Harris. She was 32 years old. She was a daughter, a friend, a woman who believed in love with every fragile corner of her heart. And now, she was gone, buried like a secret, discarded like she was nothing. But Monique was not nothing. She was everything. To her mother, Gloria, she was the heartbeat of the family. To Latrice, her best friend, she was the sister she chose. To the world, Monique was meant to be someone, to leave her mark, to live a life full of laughter and possibility. And yet, 2 days after giving the man she thought was her future husband $50,000 to secure their marriage, Monique disappeared. 2 days later, her body was found buried in the backyard of the very home she believed would shelter her dreams. We rewind the story now. Because before there was a grave, there was a girl. Before the betrayal, there was belief. And before the silence, there was laughter that could light up a room. Monique grew up in a small but vibrant community. She wasn't born into riches, but she was raised on values that couldn't be bought: kindness, determination, loyalty. Gloria, her mother, remembers the way Monique used to press her tiny hands into the soil of their garden, squealing whenever the first green shoots of beans and tomatoes pushed through. She always believed in growth, Gloria would later say, tears burning her throat. She believed that if you poured enough love and patience into something, it would bloom. And Monique herself bloomed. She excelled in school, not because it came easy, but because she was relentless. She loved chemistry but secretly wanted to be a writer. She journaled every night, scribbling dreams onto the pages, dreams of travel, of love, of a family of her own. She wanted the kind of love that stayed, the kind that held her when storms came. Her laugh, it wasn't just sound, it was light. People would stop and smile without even realizing it when Monique laughed. She had a way of making you feel like you mattered. That was her gift. The night she met Tyrone, it didn't feel like danger. It felt like destiny. It was at a mutual friends gathering, music playing low, glasses clinking, people buzzing with chatter. Tyrone stood tall, confident, with a charm that rolled off him like perfume. He was the kind of man who knew how to command a room, how to make a woman feel seen. And that night, he chose Monique. "Your smile," he said, leaning close, "it could stop time." It was the kind of line most women would shrug off. But Monique, she had always been soft to words, to kindness, to the idea that someone could see the beauty she worked so hard to protect. And so, she smiled wider. They talked all night. About dreams, about family, about the future. He made her believe he wanted the same things she did: stability, love, marriage. To Latrice, who watched from across the room, it felt too fast, too rehearsed. But to Monique, it felt like falling into something she had waited her whole life for. Weeks turned into months, and Tyrone's presence wrapped around her life like ivy. He sent flowers to her office, texted her good morning and good night, whispered promises that painted her future in colors she had always longed for. Gloria, though, wasn't convinced. Mothers know. And she saw the way Monique's once bright eyes sometimes clouded with worry when Tyrone's name appeared on her phone. "Baby," Gloria said once, gently, "sometimes love looks like the sun but feels like a storm. Just, be careful." But Monique, heart full of hope, brushed it off. "Mama, he loves me. He says I'm his everything. I've never felt this way before." And then came the talk of marriage. Not whispered fantasies, but real plans. Tyrone wanted her to believe in forever, and she did. So much so, that when he said he needed $50,000 to secure their wedding, to pay for what he claimed were unavoidable debts before they could start fresh, she didn't hesitate long. She wanted love. She wanted forever. She wanted him. And so, she gave him the money. $50,000. A lifetime of savings, poured into the promise of a man's words. 2 days later, she vanished. At first, everything about Tyrone seemed like a dream stitched together by fate itself. He knew how to smile at her in a way that made her forget the years of loneliness, the nights she had prayed for someone to notice her heart. To Monique, he wasn't just a man, he was an answer. But answers, sometimes, come wrapped in riddles. Tyrone knew how to play the part. He held doors open, sent flowers on Wednesdays, just because, and made her feel like she was the center of a universe that had once felt too big, too empty. He wasn't just attentive, he was intoxicating. "Baby girl," he would whisper late at night when they lay tangled in sheets, "I'm gonna build you a kingdom. You'll never have to want for anything again. You and me, we're forever." And Monique, with her tender heart and her relentless belief in love, drank in every word like water in a desert. She would write in her journal, "He makes me feel seen. He makes me believe I'm worth loving. Maybe this is it. Maybe this is the forever I've been waiting for." Her friends, though, saw the cracks. Latrice especially. She noticed the way Tyrone's charm was almost too polished, the way he talked more about what he wanted than what Monique dreamed of. "Girl," Latrice warned one evening as they sipped wine in Monique's small apartment, "I don't know. He's fine, yes. He's charming, yes. But something about him, it feels rehearsed. Like he's reading lines off a script." Monique laughed it off, her cheeks flushing. "That's just you being overprotective. He loves me, Latrice. He really does. For once, I feel like I matter." And that was the truth, Monique wanted so badly to matter. Slowly, Tyrone's love became something else, something Monique didn't want to admit felt heavier than it should. At first, it was small things. "Why are you still talking to your ex? Why do you let Latrice meddle in our relationship? She doesn't want to see you happy. You spend too much time with your family. I'm your family now." And Monique, caught between the joy of his affection and the unease of his control, chose silence. Because silence, sometimes, feels safer than confrontation when love is on the line. But deep down, a voice whispered, "This isn't how love should feel." The night Tyrone proposed, he orchestrated it like a scene from a romance movie. Candles lined the living room floor, soft music played in the background, and he dropped to one knee with a ring that sparkled under the glow of flickering lights. "Monique Harris," he said, his voice low and full of rehearsed conviction, "you are the love of my life. You are the reason I wake up in the morning. Marry me, and let's start forever right now." Tears filled Monique's eyes. She thought of her mother, of her journal entries, of every lonely night she had endured. She thought of the little girl who believed in love stories, who believed in happy endings. And in that moment, she said yes. She called Latrice the next morning, her voice bubbling with joy. He proposed. Girl, he proposed. There was a pause on the line. "Congratulations," Latrice said carefully. "But please, Monique, please be sure. Don't let your heart blind you." But Monique's heart was already blind. It was weeks later, when the wedding talk began, that Tyrone's true plan slipped through the cracks of his charm. They were sitting together, her hand in his, when he sighed deeply. "Baby, you know I want this wedding to be perfect for you. But I got some things I need to clear up first. Some debts. some people I need to pay off before we can start our life clean. I don't want you walking into my baggage. Monique frowned. Debts? How much are we talking about? 50,000, Tyrone said without flinching. Just 50. After that, we're good. We can get married without anything hanging over us. Her chest tightened. 50,000 was more money than she had ever spent on anything in her life. It was her savings, her security, the cushion she had built through years of sacrifice. But Tyrone leaned closer, his eyes glistening with practiced sincerity. Think about it, Monique. This is for us. For our future. Don't you trust me? And that word, trust, broke down her defenses. Because Monique wanted to trust. She wanted to believe that love meant sacrifice, that building a life together meant taking risks. So she nodded, tears threatening to spill. I trust you. When Monique told her mother, Gloria's heart sank like a stone in water. 50,000. Gloria repeated, her voice sharp with disbelief. Monique, baby, that's your life savings. Why would he need that kind of money from you? What kind of man asks his fiancée for money before the wedding? Monique bit her lip. Mama, it's just temporary. He's trying to clear his past so we can start fresh. It's for us. For our future. Gloria reached across the table, taking her daughter's trembling hands in her own. Listen to me. Love is not supposed to cost you your security. Love is not supposed to make you feel like you have to pay for it. Please, think twice. But Monique, blinded by the hope of forever, only whispered. I already said yes. In the 2 days after she transferred the money, Monique's world began to shift. Tyrone was distant, distracted. He snapped more easily, his phone rang at odd hours, and when she asked what was wrong, he waved her off with irritation. It's just business, Monique. Don't nag me. Her chest tightened with unease. Something felt wrong, but she told herself it was temporary, that stress made people act out of character. She clung to the memory of his proposal, to the warmth of his promises, to the image of herself walking down the aisle in white. On the second night, Latrice called. You don't sound okay, Latrice pressed. I'm fine, Monique lied, her voice barely steady. Are you sure? Monique paused, her throat tight. I love him, Latrice. I have to believe this will work. It was the last real conversation she ever had with her best friend. 2 days after she handed Tyrone $50,000, Monique vanished. The city awoke to another ordinary morning, but for Monique's world, nothing was ordinary anymore. Her phone, which once buzzed endlessly with texts from Tyrone, had grown silent. The warmth in his voice, once her comfort, had turned into sharp edges of irritation. Something about him felt colder, distant, as if he had already left even while standing in the same room. Monique tried to shake the unease clinging to her like a shadow. He loves me, she repeated in her mind. He just needs time. He just needs space. But the voice inside her heart whispered louder with every passing hour, something is wrong. On the evening before she disappeared, Monique dressed in a soft peach blouse, the one Tyrone had once said made her look like sunlight. She wanted to remind him of the love they shared, to pull him back into the warmth they once drowned in. Tyrone, she said gently as they sat across from each other at the dinner table, is everything okay? You've been so distant lately. I just want to understand. He looked up, his jaw tightening. I told you, it's business. You worry too much. Her eyes watered, but she forced a smile. I'm not worrying. I'm just. I love you. I want us to be okay. He sighed, rubbing his temples. We are okay, Monique. Stop acting like something's wrong. But something was wrong. She could feel it in the pit of her stomach. Later that night, as Tyrone slept beside her, Monique lay awake staring at the ceiling. The silence in the room was deafening, broken only by his steady breaths. She wanted to shake him awake, to demand the truth. But instead, she whispered into the darkness. "Please don't hurt me. Please don't hurt us." It was the last prayer she would ever say in that apartment. The morning she vanished, the sun rose bright and warm, but Monique's presence was swallowed by shadows. She never showed up to work. She never called Latrice back. Her phone went straight to voicemail. Hours turned into a full day, and the panic in her family's chest grew heavier with each unanswered call. Gloria's hands trembled as she dialed her daughter again and again. "Pick up, baby. Please, just pick up." But all she got was silence. By the second day, Latrice's worry turned into alarm. She drove to Monique's apartment, pounding on the door until her fists ached. No answer. She called Tyrone, her voice sharp with suspicion. "Where's Monique? Don't play games with me, where is she?" Tyrone's tone was flat, almost indifferent. "I don't know. She probably needed space. You know how she gets." But Latrice knew Monique better than anyone. Monique never vanished without a word. Monique never ignored her mother. Something was horribly, terrifyingly wrong. When the family filed the missing persons report, detectives immediately sensed the weight of the case. Monique wasn't a runaway. She wasn't someone who vanished for attention. She was a woman who had everything to live for: her job, her family, her dreams of marriage. Her photo spread across the community, her radiant smile, her eyes that seemed to shine even through paper. Volunteers combed the streets, her name echoing through alleys and across fields. Monique. Monique. Latrice led the charge, her voice breaking each time she shouted. "Monique, it's me, it's Latrice. Come home, please." But days turned into a week, and hope began to tremble under the weight of silence. Detectives turned their focus to Tyrone. His calm demeanor didn't sit right with them. He didn't seem panicked, didn't seem desperate to find his fiancée. When they asked him about the last time he saw her, he shrugged. "She left the house that morning. Said she had errands. I haven't seen her since." But there was something too neat, too rehearsed about his words. Then came the discovery of the financial records. 2 days before she vanished, Monique had transferred $50,000 directly into Tyrone's account. The timing was impossible to ignore. The lead detective leaned forward in the interrogation room, his eyes piercing into Tyrone's. "She gives you 50 grand, and 2 days later she's gone. That's not a coincidence. Tell us what you did to her." Tyrone smirked, leaning back in his chair. "Money ain't a crime. She gave it to me because she loved me. If she's missing, that's on her. Not me." But his arrogance only deepened the suspicion. It was nearly 2 weeks later when a neighbor came forward with a detail that would shatter everything. She remembered seeing Tyrone late one night, moving bags into his truck. She thought it was strange, the hour, the way he kept looking over his shoulder. And then she noticed the patch of freshly dug earth in a backyard not far from where Tyrone sometimes hung around. Detectives followed the lead. They brought dogs, flashlights, and a sickening sense of dread. As the soil was turned over, the world seemed to hold its breath. And then, there she was. Monique's body, broken, buried beneath the earth like her life had meant nothing. The light in her eyes, the laughter in her voice, the dreams in her heart, all silenced by the man who had promised her forever. When Gloria received the call, her knees buckled beneath her. Her wail tore through the house, a sound so raw and guttural it seemed to rip the air apart. The family gathered, their sobs filling the room. Her mother's cries, her brother's silence, her friends' shaking shoulders, grief swept through them like a wildfire, leaving nothing untouched. She trusted him, Gloria wept. She gave him everything. And he put her in the ground like she was nothing. Tyrone's arrest was swift. Officers surrounded him as he tried to walk casually down the street, his swagger unfazed even in handcuffs. "You think you can prove anything?" he sneered as they pushed him into the back of the patrol car. But the evidence was overwhelming. The money. The lies. The body buried in a backyard. The courtroom was packed. Every bench creaked under the weight of bodies pressed shoulder to shoulder, all of them carrying the same unspoken question: how could love end in a grave? At the front, beneath the solemn gaze of the judge, Tyrone sat at the defendant's table. His suit was pressed, his face expressionless, but his eyes darted across the room like a man cornered by his own lies. He smirked now and then, as though he still believed he could charm his way out of the noose tightening around his neck. But across the aisle, the weight of Monique's absence hung heavier than the gavel itself. Gloria sat in the front row, clutching a folded handkerchief damp with tears. She had dressed carefully that morning, wearing Monique's favorite color, soft blue, as though somehow it would make her daughter feel present. Beside her, Latrice held her mother's hand, squeezing it every time Gloria's sobs threatened to break through the silence. Every photo the prosecutors displayed of Monique ripped another wound open. Her radiant smile, her glowing eyes, her laughter caught in frozen moments, all reminders of a life violently stolen. The prosecutor stood tall, her voice trembling with both fury and compassion. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," she began, "Monique believed in love. She believed in a man who promised her forever. She gave him her trust. She gave him her heart. She even gave him $50,000 of her hard-earned savings because she believed they were building a future together. And what did she get in return? A grave. Buried like she was nothing." Tyrone did not love Monique. He loved her money. And when she was no longer useful to him, he silenced her forever. Her words hung like thunder in the air. The jurors shifted, some blinking back their own tears. One by one, witnesses took the stand. Latrice described the last frantic calls, her voice cracking. "She always picked up for me. Always. But that day, nothing. I knew. I just knew something was wrong." The neighbor recounted the late-night sight of Tyrone lugging bags into his truck. He looked nervous. Kept looking around like someone was watching. "I didn't know it then, but I was watching a man hide a crime." The detectives walked the jury through the evidence, the financial transfer, the inconsistencies in Tyrone's story, the discovery of Monique's body in the dirt. Every detail drove the knife deeper into the family's chest, but it also painted the truth with terrifying clarity. When Tyrone's attorney rose to speak, the room bristled with disbelief. "Mr. Tyrone loved Monique," he claimed smoothly. "The money she gave him was a gift, freely given. He has no idea what happened to her. He's being painted as a villain because he was the last to see her alive. That's not evidence. That's speculation." Tyrone nodded along, wearing the same smug grin that had once charmed Monique. But that grin now looked monstrous, hollow, a mask stretched over cruelty. When he took the stand himself, he leaned back casually, speaking with the arrogance of a man who thought he could outsmart everyone. "I didn't kill Monique," he said flatly. "She left. Maybe she met someone else. Maybe she didn't want to be found. Y'all just want someone to blame, and I'm the easy target." The deliberations were short. The evidence was too strong, the story too damning, the arrogance too undeniable. When the foreman rose and read the verdict, guilty on all counts, the room erupted. Gloria wept into her hands, sobbing uncontrollably as Latrice wrapped her arms around her. The family clung together, their tears soaking each other's clothes, their cries mingling into one long note of both pain and justice. Across the room, Tyrone's face finally cracked. The smirk vanished. The swagger drained away. He slammed his hands on the table, shouting, "This is a setup. She gave me that money. I didn't do nothing." But his voice was swallowed by the clanging of the judge's gavel and the orderlies who restrained him. Justice had spoken. But justice didn't bring Monique back. In the days that followed, the community gathered to mourn Monique's life. Candlelight vigils lined the streets, her photo glowing in the flicker of flames held by trembling hands. Strangers cried as though they had known her, moved by the cruelty of her death and the beauty of her stolen life. Gloria spoke at one vigil, her voice breaking into sobs with every word. My Monique was light. She was love. She trusted too much, gave too much, believed too much. And for that, she paid with her life. Don't let her death be in vain. If you see a woman loving too hard, giving too much, protect her. Don't let this happen to another mother's child. Her words echoed through the crowd, carried on the night air like a prayer. Every holiday, every birthday, every ordinary day was a reminder of her absence. Monique's room remained untouched. Her clothes hung in the closet, her perfume lingered in the air, her favorite mug still sat in the kitchen cabinet. A shrine to the life she should have continued living. In time, Monique's story became more than tragedy. It became a call for awareness, a plea for others to see the warning signs she had ignored out of love. Community groups spoke her name at events, reminding women to trust their instincts, to guard their hearts, to know their worth. But for her family, the legacy was far more personal. It was in every sunrise Gloria watched with tears in her eyes, whispering, "Good morning, baby." It was in every dream Latrice had where Monique's laughter echoed before fading into silence. The wound never closed. It simply became part of them, a scar carved by betrayal and loss. And for Tyrone, locked behind bars, the world outside moved on without him. No money, no swagger, no woman to charm. Just four cold walls and the echo of the name he could never escape, Monique. But for Monique's family, the story never ended. Grief doesn't follow the rhythm of news cycles. It lingers, heavy and relentless, pressing down on the chest until even breathing feels like betrayal. Latrice battled her own demons. She scrolled through her phone at night, replaying Monique's old voice notes, listening to her laughter again and again until her tears blurred the screen. Why didn't I go over that day? Why didn't I check sooner, she would whisper to herself, as if punishing her heart could undo the silence. The community too bore the wound. Neighbors who once saw Monique's bright smile at the corner store now walked with heavier steps. People whispered her name in hushed tones, as though speaking it too loudly might shatter the fragile peace they clung to. Church services turned into moments of collective grief. Candles flickered in her memory, prayers rose into the rafters, and her face appeared in photo collages held up during vigils. She could have been any of us, one woman said through tears. A sister, a daughter, a friend. And look what trust cost her. Months after the trial, Gloria sat down at the kitchen table with a pen and paper. Her hands shook as she wrote, but she needed to release the words that had been suffocating her heart. My dearest Monique. Not a day passes that I don't think of you. I still hear your laughter in the morning, still see your smile in every corner of this home. Sometimes I pretend you're just away on a trip, that you'll walk through the door with that glow in your eyes. But then I remember the truth, and it breaks me all over again. I don't understand why you had to pay the price for loving too much. But I promise you, baby, your story will not be forgotten. I will tell it until my last breath. I will warn others. I will fight so no other mother buries her child because of betrayal. I love you, my sweet girl. Rest easy. Mama will carry you in her heart forever. She sealed the letter, placed it gently in Monique's favorite jewelry box, and tucked it away like a sacred relic. One evening, Latrice broke down completely. She collapsed in Monique's room, clutching one of her sister's dresses to her chest, screaming into it until her voice gave out. Her husband tried to comfort her, but she pushed him away. You don't understand, she cried. She was my sister, my other half. We were supposed to grow old together. We were supposed to raise our kids side by side. Now all I have is this empty house and a grave to visit. The rawness of her pain shattered everyone who heard it. Meanwhile, Tyrone rotted in prison. The man who once strutted with arrogance now shuffled through hallways in shackles. His charm meant nothing in a world of concrete walls and iron bars. But still, he never admitted guilt. To other inmates, he told the same lie. "She gave me that money. I ain't kill nobody." But at night, alone in his cell, he stared at the ceiling and saw her face. The last time she looked at him, the last words she spoke before he betrayed her trust, replayed in his mind like a haunting echo. No bars, no locks, no guards could protect him from that ghost. Monique's death rippled far beyond her family. Women across the city whispered to one another, sharing her story as a warning. Community centers hosted workshops on financial safety, toxic relationships, and self-worth. Her name became a symbol. A rallying cry. A reminder that love without respect is not love at all, it's a trap. On the anniversary of her death, family and friends gathered at her grave. The air was heavy with sorrow, but also with love. Balloons in her favorite color, blue, floated into the sky, carrying messages written in trembling handwriting. "We love you, Monique. We miss you. We'll never forget you." Gloria knelt by the grave, pressing her hand against the cold stone. "I gave you life, and he took it away. But you'll live in us, baby. You'll live in us." The crowd wept as they watched her, their own hearts breaking anew. In the end, Monique's story was not just about betrayal or murder. It was about the depth of a woman's love, the cruelty of misplaced trust, and the unrelenting strength of a family left behind. She had given everything, her heart, her money, her dreams, believing she was building a future. Instead, she was buried in a backyard, her light dimmed too soon. But even in death, her spirit rose higher than the man who tried to bury her. Her memory became louder than his lies. And so her story echoes. Love should never cost you your life.